Hello everyone, welcome to another Java for Android tutorial. In this tutorial, we are going to talk about methods and access modifiers. I'm using the same hello world program that we always use. Let's delete this line as we no longer require them. I'm creating two variables called variable1 and give this a value of 10 and another variable called variable2 and give this a value of 20. Now I want to find the greatest of these two variables. How do I do that? Let's type in an if statement and say if variable1 is greater than variable2, print variable1, else print variable2. If we run the program, we can see that 20 is printed, which is the greatest variable. Now, if I want to do this again for two more variables, I need to create the variables again, call them variable3, give this a value of 90, and then create another variable, variable4, and give this a value of, let's say, 20. And if I want to find the greatest of these two variables, I'll have to type in the code again and say variable3 is, if variable3 is greater than variable4, print variable3, else print variable4. So if we run this program, 90 gets printed as this is the largest variable. If we want to create more variables and check which is the greatest of those variables, we need to copy paste code again and again, and this makes our code larger. But for using code over and over again, there is something called as methods that we could use in Java. Now I'm going to create an equivalent of method for this. Let's create a method. I'm going to create a method called private static int and call it greatest, and I'll have two parameters in the method called parameter 1 and then parameter 2. We will learn what these each individual thing are in a minute, and I'm going to say if parameter 1 is greater than parameter 2, return parameter 1, else return parameter 2. I'm going to replace this by saying int variable 5 equals greatest and give the two variables that we created before as the parameters, and I'm going to print variable 5. Now let's do the same thing for variable 1, variable 2 as well. I'm going to create variable 6 here, pass in variable 1 and variable 2, and I'm going to print variable 6. Now if we run the program, as you could see, we got the same results, but we used less code and the code looks much more cleaner now. So this is called a method, and the method has several different parts. I'm going to explain each part. So the first part is the access modifier. It denotes how the methods are accessed in code. It is of three types: private, public, and protected. And this is called as the non-access modifier or static modifier. And we will look at this in detail in a different video. The next item here is called as a return type. The return type indicates what value gets returned by that method. In this case, we are returning an integer, the greatest number, so we have int. This could be of any type, or if there are no return types, we can type void, which means that there's no return type. But in this case, we have an integer return type. We're going to use that. We can send in parameters into that method to calculate. So since we are calculating the greatest number, we need two numbers to check, and that becomes the parameter 1 and the parameter 2. A method can have any number of parameters and no parameter at all. It depends on the method and its type. So as you could see, I checked the parameters for the greatest and then return the greatest one. In a method having a return type, it must have a return statement and followed by a variable that is being returned, which is the same as the return type. If not, program won't compile and you will get errors. Now let's discuss access modifiers that are used in Java. Here, the private that is declared before a method is called as an access modifier. And if there's no access modifier, it's also called as a default modifier. But in this case, we use private. There are different types of access modifiers that are used: public, protected, private, and default, which is no specific modifier that is explicitly mentioned. So when you see the architecture of Java, you see these are the packages. So there can be several packages, and there can be several classes inside Java. To determine which classes or which packages get access to these methods or variables, we use these access modifiers. If it is private, then this method gets access only within the same class that it is in. But public gets access to all the methods that are available. The default access modifier is accessed by all the classes within the same package and not in a different package. But these are the three types of modifiers that we will be using a lot in our Android course, and it's important to know how each modifier works. And we'll be using public and private a lot throughout the course. That's it for this tutorial. I will see you guys in the next tutorial. This is Alex Vijayaraj. Have a good one.